everyone to the LEC and G2 Esports versus Schalke 04. Now, the World's finalists, they came into the split with 3 back-to-back titles, but in week 1, they didn't quite look like themselves yet. Is that a rightful way to put what we saw from G2 in week 1, Trevor?
I think it's the most fair way of putting it. Look, it was a number of uncharacteristic mistakes. I think a number of players underperformed, obviously. And I think it is very important to call out the fact that, yes, Luke in particular was dealing with difficult circumstances. That's still not an excuse for the rest of the team, right? And I actually spoke to Grabs, and he was very direct. And he said, look, Luca actually said he wants to play. He's in a good headspace, and there was some criticism from people like Monty Christo saying, why are you doing a bot-focused draft? And Grabs is like, we trust him. If Luca says play, we're going to play that way.
That's fair. And I mean, honestly, Luca was not the problem that week. A lot of the problems came from Jankos, Mr. Back-to-back MVP, by the way. I expected a lot more from him, but in the first week of the LEC, he had already died 12 times. Very uncharacteristic performances from him alongside Wunder in the top lane, and perhaps a little less Valorant coming into this week. We'll have to wait and see from Wunder. But of course, like,
so World of Warcraft has now been replaced by Valorant, both
I mean,
of which are detrimental to G2's overall performance.
Those are some pretty huge accusations. So
of course, it's also of course just a bit of banter because they also love to post their Valorant clips on stream. On Twitter and stuff. So, but we also know like they've earned the pedigree, which is that a bad week does not mean that G2 is suddenly down and out. And we have to remember last split when they lost to Schalke and then Misfits. Everyone was like, "Is this it?" And then no, they immediately bounced back. They win the split. Like G2, you can never really guess what G2 is going to show up on the week. So I think it's best to see like, let's see how the rest of the week.
And it's also so important to know that when this team is feeling confident, when this team feels they have something to prove, they can find the gears to step it up. Grab said in no uncertain terms, we still have no doubt that we are the best team in Europe, and we will 2-0 this weekend. Like, it was as blunt as you can get.
And I think that's great that he makes that statement, because that's what you expect from a team like G2 now that they have a full week of scrims again. That's what we want to see. We want to see them smash that opposition. But I think there is something to say for the fact that things are leveling up in Europe. They always do in summer, but they especially seem to be doing so this summer. So I'm going to keep a close eye on this G2, because I think it's going to be harder and harder for them to lift that trophy.
I think it's so important to call out that the benefit of the doubt only lasts so long.
Yes.
Right? You've earned yourself all of the trust from many, many people with back-to-back titles with such impressive performances, but you have 2, 3, 4 weeks of questionable performances, and then all of a sudden that faith and that confidence does go out the window.
Yeah, we're not there yet. It's only the first.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And I do think that the biggest criticism I had of G2 was individual performances, which is something that's very easy to fix, especially when you look at the players on this G2 Esports roster. And I think that ultimately one of the biggest barriers that many teams have when it comes to beating these players is matching them on an individual level, let alone the macro aspect. So while I think the macro level overall in Europe is getting better, especially on our lower end teams, I'm still yet to see teams that can pound for pound go against Caps, Perkz, Wunder. You know, like, they are the best in their roles for a reason. And so hopefully we get to see a return to form for their individual performances this week.
Let's see if it happens. As Grab said, it's going to be a 2-0. So they're going to start today with Schalke. Now, Schalke is currently 0-3. That is not good. We, of course, remember that they went on that huge losing streak in spring, and that kind of negated all their chances in the rest of the season. Now, Dylan Falco immediately stepped in. He put Neon and Dreams in the bot lane for this game versus G2.
It's actually interesting to me because I spoke to Odoamne, I spoke to Dylan Falco, both of whom were surprised that there was 0-3. Both of whom had higher expectations for themselves going into week 1. Their scrims had gone well. Their expectations on how they would perform on stage were going to go well. Both of whom quoted the success they had in spring. And then they both said, we just need to get better.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that they have been playing with their ERL squad, with their LEC squad as well, and trying to figure that out during the off-season. So I'm hopeful to see what this bottom lane is going to do. I'm hopeful to see Neon and Dreams hopefully being hungry and seeing, well, if you're in the ERL team and you step up and you perform now on this stage, this is how you get your confirmed starter slot in the LEC.
I mean, we were optimistic. At the beginning of the split, we were on Ready Check talking about how they could be a dark horse for playoffs. They're a team that impresses at the end of last split. And hopefully, with a more solid roster coming into the beginning of the split, they'd find that identity sooner. Personally, I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get to see an already fleshed out identity and direction the team wants to go in. And when speaking to Dylan Falco, he talked to me about like trying to mix and match the pieces to find the most success. But they need to find that soon, because summer isn't going to last forever, and if they want to make that spot at Worlds, they need to lock in a roster that works for them and perform at the level that can secure them a playoff spot at least.
I completely agree with you is that it's going to go by so quickly, but I do look at this completely different as to how I looked at Schalke in spring, because then there were a lot of situations behind the scenes where roster moves had to be made that weren't necessarily in the planning or meant to be planned for different reasons. This to me is different. This is that plan of the 10-man roster that they're actively going to change out in the first couple of weeks and maybe going forward to find the puzzle that fits. And, you know, as a Schalke fan, then you just have to have trust in the machine.
And I want to believe in it. I want to believe in it. I much prefer a team and organization that looks at a larger roster conscientiously, deliberately, and with intent.
Yeah.
If you're making roster substitutions because shit is burning down, that is a problem, right? But when it is this, when it is for to achieve a goal, the one thing I do want to see, though, is still improvement in the game. There was a number of areas last week, from their early game to decisions around Dragons to decisions around Heralds, that simply needs to be improved upon, and hopefully the fresh blood to this roster on today's stage will work.
We can see it right here. It actually goes for both squads. Both G2 and Schalke need to shore up their early game.
Yeah, and this is very uncharacteristic, especially for a team like G2, where they are hailed for their impressive early game largely because of Jankos. So I'm looking at him specifically to see how that changes coming into this week. And I think for Schalke, what's interesting is you look at their kills and deaths. Their deaths are actually very low, but that's because they just weren't doing a lot. To me, it felt like that they were very scared coming into week one. There were very obvious plays that they could have been making that they just decided they didn't want to try and run the risk of. And I get it in the concept of coming into the start of the split, you want to perform well, you don't want to take any gambles. But what we've been seeing from some of the most successful teams, like just take a look at Rogue today. Yeah. They danced around that Baron and they took it down to 3k HP to force that teleport out, and then they immediately backed off. And you have to be willing to take these gambles to compete against the best here in the LEC.
One of the things that I think is undoubtable is the fact that even G2 and underperforming G2 is still going to be the favorites in this matchup. And I think I want to see what they can do with another week, maybe clearer heads, maybe some additional practice that may have been lacking going into week one. And this for me is a good judge to see, right, where do we see G2's power? And a good judge for Schalke. Can they at least show some level of matchup, some level of competition against some of the best players we have in the league?
Yeah, correct. It's going to be tough. Well, we'll see if G2 and Schalke can fix some of their issues as we leave it to the casters for picks and bans.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. I'm Drakos, joined by Froskurinn for the last three games of the day. Struggled on that one a little bit, but as we heard from the analyst desk, it's a lot about resetting expectations today. Hard to really get a gauge of where both these teams are at, because if we take last week as the end-all be-all, it's not a good place. It was a struggle for both of these teams.
Yeah, and we had a conversation with Mickey over on Euphoria. Nailed that plug. He was basically talking about, you know, they didn't get a lot of chance to scrim coming into week one, and so it did feel like a dated G2. They went back to comfort of what they thought might be strong in the meta, and then just kind of ran into a brick wall for 2 of their 3 games. And because it was a super week, you know, were punished that much further because they had 3 games instead of to play for 2. Now that we see G2 with a full week of scrims in front of them, I'm very excited to see what they do new with the patch, what they do now that Grabs has taken off the belt and been like, you better shape up, boys, and what they do in this current meta.
It is a good question, and also to see what Schalke's new bottom lane will do. Because as you heard from the desk, this is a very difficult time to be figuring out who you want your starting lineup to be. Usually when we talk about 10-man rosters at the peak, it's swapping players in and out who have different strengths, who can do different things in different situations, not just finding a functional roster in the first place.
And that's the scary thing. Unfortunately, it feels like our bottom tier teams have kind of moved to this really competitive middle of the pack, and that's where Schalke wanted to be. So while SK and Vitality have now raced past them with a significantly stronger macro understanding, Schalke are still kind of fumbling to find their feet. We'll see if Neon and Dreams hold the answer for them as we head into draft.
Absolutely will. Of course, Schalke on the blue side, G2 on the red. Bans have changed a little bit here on patch 10.12. Trundle seeing a lot more attention. Varus, Syndra, we expect to remain permanent.
And I think Trundle being banned from blue side tells me that you don't want to burn the priority pick on him, and you much prefer banning or grabbing that priority pick for something like an Aphelios. Trundle can give Aphelios a really hard time because he's still a relatively low mobility ADC, and Trundle with his pillar can pop it up behind him and just ruin his whole day.
Definitely a powerful piece of utility. We'll have to see. The other jungler that has been popping up and been increasing in priority as we've gone further and further into this season is the set jungle, something neither of these teams really paid much mind to, but was incredibly effective, I believe, against both of them. So See if the adaptation has come through, if that's been added to some of these champion pools. But for now, it's the classic S tiers. Thresh, of course, your go-to support. He's good in just about every situation, so nice to see him banned away here, especially against a playmaker like Dreams.
And we assume this is going to be another targeted ban, and we'll see another handshake as the Ezreal and Aphelios are most likely going to be left open. I assume that Schalke, again with that Trundle ban, will snap grab the Aphelios first pick on blue side, but we'll see what the option's going to be, boys.
They're really taking their time on the final ban. And this is, I think, from red side, always the most difficult ban, because it's kind of picking what is left open. Now, they could get Ezreal, but if they don't take Ezreal, they give up Ezreal Yuumi.
And that would also be the suspected idea that's going to be happening here. So obviously G2 know that Ezreal Yuumi is going to go across. So what is their answer going to be? Is this when we see, you know, a Yasuo Gragas type of style special pick, or what do you have picked up? Nope, we're just going to deny it. Oh no. Oh no, Schalke have made an error already!
I think this is the thing. This is the problem with this situation, and why I like that G2 put Schalke in it, is that they're never going to get both halves of the combo, and now they have to find someone else to pair Yuumi with. And while Yuumi pairs very well with a lot of the bruisers and melee champions in the current meta, she doesn't really pair as well with any other ADC. Ezreal's safety is Yuumi's safety. Vulnerability from mobile champions is also Yuumi's vulnerability, which is a very difficult spot to be in.
Rude. I think Yuumi can pair up with Lucian. Obviously, Lucian isn't as flexible in a lot of different compositions. I think that we're scrambling, though. I think the fumble is that they picked the Yuumi instead of the Ezreal, and then G2 were like, what? Let's just deny them the Ezreal and separate the two. I think the assumption was it would be the Ezreal first.
They've got the Karma as well, which is technically a flex, of course. Could go up into the top lane if Wunder is feeling frisky, if he wants to try something new. And this bot lane's not good, Froskurinn. It's very fast. It will move across the map and get to lane very quickly, but it's also very vulnerable. If a piece of CC hits that misfortune, she dies. It is not, once again, the safety of the Ezreal. And now on top of that, they're pairing potentially a Graze. Jankos, though, the Lee Sin last week was a bit questionable.
Jankos turning around to grabs. Can I play it?
Not this time. I mean, it's in Jarvan. Not seeing any of the crazier new season jungle picks coming out, but the Rek'Sai was something that Jankos did find success on, had a solid early game.
And Inter talks about this all the time. I actually really love Rek'Sai with poke-oriented composition. So already the first few picks, the Ezreal and the Karma from G2, because Rek'Sai's passive, her Tremor Sense, allows her to scout side lane. So as you are setting up in a long lane, poking people under tower and trying to make these skill shots connect, Rek'Sai can keep her team really safe that a lot of junglers don't really have that ability.
And of course, Yuumi Misfortune obviously still very strong. Second most common pairing overall, but I don't know, Froskurinn. The more that I see the Rek'Sai potentially coming in, obviously the good news is if you can take away Rek'Sai's flash early game, Misfortune's just going to dance around that boy.
I feel like Schalke are still just going to their bread and butter. It doesn't matter who's on that 10-man roster or who's currently taking up the 5 spots. They are a team fight-oriented team. They like to play around timers, they like to group up as 5, they like to run wombo combo style of games, and I think that's what they went back to. I personally just have a bias against Misfortune. I don't think she's that strong, even though she is just a walking ball of stats that a lot of our pro players like to talk about with her, so I'm also just mean to Misfortune.
I agree. And I think we can hit on it more in-game, because I'll be honest, I want to go down this rabbit hole with you to talk about this champion and conceptually what she brings, but for now, before we get too far down that one, we'll see the Ornn banned away, we'll see the Renekton, so a lot of the more aggressive blind pick and Renekton taken away and the safer potential pick taken there. So potentially trying to save a final pick here for Wunder in this draft.
Also maybe clearing up the way for a fun bruiser pick that isn't just going to get pushed out by Renekton.
And remember, Volibear looked disgusting in our last game and has not seen any attention yet so far in this draft.
I feel like Volibear is what Udyr wanted to be.
It is absolutely what Udyr wanted to be. Udyr players there are so sad. They're like, why do I have an ability called Bear Stance and it's not just that? Why can't I turn into that? Why is my bear so pathetic compared to that bear?
We've got another one.
And in the scheme of things, with an immobile AD carry, I like the theory behind the Akali, but from what we saw in the previous game in the hands of Febevin, the Akali was relatively low impact, I think is the polite way to say it.
I mean, he was trying to get out into those side lanes. Now, the Azir is still open and available if we want to see the exact same matchup that we just saw last game. Caps has really found a lot of his success in getting out to those side lanes, not really playing his lane at all, and that's what I expect him to try to do with this Akali.
And I would love to see potentially some sort of 1-3-1, some kind of lane side pressure. Remember, once again, the Karma is still technically a flex. The support pool has not been pinched very much, so there is still room for G2 to pivot if they want to.
I do want to point out a trend that is starting to occur against G2 and Caps specifically. If we assume that that's his Akali and he is going to be playing and running out to those side lanes, Origin did this across from Caps, and now Schalke are going to try to do the same thing. Taking a champion like Corki that has things like the package. Origin even ran the teleport on the Corki to try to control this man in the mid lane, or at least have tools to follow him and match him on a side.
And I'm really keen to talk about these hover-overs, but you're right. I think matching G2 or outmatching G2 in map mobility has worked very effectively. I think we saw it in the best 5 that they played versus Fnatic last year, where Nemesis's TF was a big thorn in their side, limited a lot of the skirmishes that they wanted to take because that extra man could ruin everything. But now, that's a spicy one. It looks like we're going to have the Akali on the top side of the map. Karma will be committed to the bot lane, and now we get the Ekko moving into the mid lane.
Finding the matchups that we like, and of course on a champion like Ekko, it's still going to be the same idea of you can now also play your lane as well as those side lanes, and the dive potential especially. G2 love to look for those 7:30-minute dives on a champion like Ekko with his ultimate, which he'll have at that time. Will set that up beautifully, so that is something to watch for when we get in game.
I mean, yeah, absolutely, especially paired with the Rek'Sai ultimate as well. We have 2 ways to reset tower aggros on dives post level 6, in addition to a lot of mobility. So for the Aatrox, maybe he's dreaming. You got the Aatrox Yuumi combo mid to late game. Maybe he's hoping he's going to feel good. But for the Misfortune and the Corki, this is going to be an insanely obnoxious team to play against.
And already taking a step back from these compositions and looking at them, G2, it feels like a power composition. You can see how obnoxious all of these champions can be in fights.
G2 versus Schalke, no fear, starting right now.
That moment when I didn't know where the LCK intro was going to come in.
I didn't know either. I panickedly was like, wait a minute, the graphics disappeared. Are we in the no-go zone?
I was like, I'll have a powerful point for G2's composition, and then I'll make a powerful point for Schalke's composition, and then it just cut off after G2, and I was like, oh, we killed Schalke before we started.
Give us the Schalke point. Give us the powerful Schalke point.
Oh, I was just going to be super excited that Schalke, in their comfort zone, new people on the roster, but still playing with a lot of team fight something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Team fight
Oh my
power.
god, look at that Yuumi skin.
That's the last positive thing I'm going to have to say about Ball, or if we're going to have to say about Ball all game. No offense to Neon and Dreams, I just don't love this combo. I know a lot of people do, but I'm not a big fan. But
It runs really fast.
It runs really fast, which is important when you're getting chased by an Ekko and an Akali, so.
It means that you can't, like, it's harder to dive back into Misfortune if Yuumi is sitting on her because of the ultimate can keep her protected.
2 ultimates together also could lock people up, could in theory get that big combo that you're talking about, but
It has great poke damage if you're able to layer the double up as well as the prowling projectile procs.
Sure, absolutely. So before, because I have negative sides to this too.
I just gave you all the positives.
I know, but before I go down that train, I just want to draw any attention to anything that could potentially happen early game. Because while my color knowledge is okay, my ability to be concise is not. So I want to make sure that we set the stakes before I potentially ramble.
I'm waiting.
All right, we're looking at 2 junglers, both of whom can be very early game. All right, I guess I'm doing that one too.
You were like, I've got to set the stakes, and I'm like,
I said we got to set the stakes. We got to set the stakes.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's important to keep an eye on both Lurox and Jankos here in the early game. Rek'Sai and Jarvan obviously known for a lot of their influence here early on. And while generally we probably expect Akali to get bullied out, the Ekko matchup can always be quite volatile. Even a small snowball in favor of the Ekko makes this lane almost unplayable for Corki. But for now, as expected, Abbedagge does have the advantage.
I'm impressed, Drakos.
Thank you.
Well done. Little golf clap for you. I do want to talk about the bot lane, though, because that's my favorite lane to always talk about. The fact that these Karmas and these Ezreal bot lanes, they're constantly getting there first. They're never leashing for their jungle, even if their jungle does start on bottom side. And again, we hear this all the time. The longer that an Ezreal gets you at level 1 and level 2, the more he's going to abuse you. And it's making sure that you get to that wave first, you get in those caster creeps, and you just start throwing. I almost said a bad word. You just start throwing things at people.
Throwing down.
Throwing down.
And of course, even before that first back, right? Ezreal's just so powerful. It's just once he's forced to buy the tier that he usually puts himself a little bit far behind in overall itemization. I like how aggressively Neon is playing here. The very difficult thing, I think, for this lane Froskurinn is getting lane priority against the likes of a Karma. Ezreal, the Mantra Q, so incredibly powerful at taking control there. But G2 are just trying to, it looks like, keep the wave parked out to the point where they can freeze safely, and Jankos does now have vision on Lurox, so information safely over into the G2 camp.
Yeah, safely over to Perkz and Mikyx, especially in that G2 camp. Jankos stepping forward, not only to kind of peek his head into the jungle, see what he can get back, but grabbing information on Lurox to keep Perkz and Mikyx safe down here with more information that, hey guys, he could be ganked. And now the wave is slowly built up and is slowly rolling back to Perkz and Mikyx.
We're matching here, and of course Jankos is going to grab the crab. This is a small advantage, but now with Jankos in the area, there's really no way for them to pull off a potential dive here with this stacked wave, and additionally, Perkz and Mikyx can play it well enough. They could look for the freeze. However, the wave is honestly simply too big for them to stop it at this point. It is just going to crash into the tower, potentially giving Neon and Dreams a uncontested recall here. That's where that movement speed really will come in handy.
But think of how much time has now been wasted for Lurox on this side of the map, maybe looking for a dive, or more importantly, probably protecting Neon and Dreams as they were extended and trying to crash the wave. And Jankos has made his way with caps, shifted up and towards the top side, which it doesn't look like it's going to result into a dive, but constantly feigning that pressure over to the top side of the map to help out Wunder. And you could see it growing in between the CS discrepancy there. And anytime caps disappears off the map, Odoamne has to give respect.
Yeah, and obviously very difficult for Aatrox to land really any reliable Darkened Blades in that matchup between the movement speed steroid on the Shroud from Akali, as well as, of course, the Shuriken flip to ferry her out to safety. It's really kind of, you don't really have, I would say, trade priority in that lane. You kind of have to wait the Akali to come for you if you're going to hit anything. But Perkz playing very aggressively. We'll get the exhaust as well as the heal coming out. Feels a bit early from Dreams, but it looks like they don't want to be so low that they're at risk of getting dived here.
Feels a bit early? It was a bit early. That is a big power play from Perkz. I mean, I think that's one of those situations where you shift Q and then the heal and the exhaust come down. You're like, okay, that's fine.
Not ideal. Dreams trying to go for a bit of a repeat from the play that we saw earlier. Mikyx was able to, of course, deny the early backs from Neon and Dreams. Now it's Perkz and Mikyx who have the more ideal reset. Dreams going to move up to push this wave as quickly as they can. But a solid start so far for the G2 bottom lane. I like the cheeky Dark Seal coming in from Mikyx.
It's been relatively quiet. Now, Drakos, something that I do want us to keep our eye on over the course of our 3 games, you and I were talking a bit about it behind the scenes, is this idea of the vision game. Because I feel like we use kind of this catch-all term of, oh, this team has a great vision game. But I kind of want to break down or point out when we see like some of the steps that go into a good vision game, which isn't just placing wards and denying wards, but using pressure through fog of war. And G2 are one of our best teams at creating fog and then not necessarily doing anything with it, but then just applying pressure for you to panic, make decisions, and then punish you for it. So as we get deeper into this game, particularly around the mid game, we're going to try to pay attention to how G2 or Schalke are using their vision game to force the other team.
And if this sounds complex, of course, you may remember back to our first game of the day. Rogue had a great, I think one of the clearest examples of this, where they baited around the dragon, where they literally walked around fog to keep Vitality in the dark for as long as possible before pulling their trigger on the play.
And especially on 2 compositions that love to fight around monster objectives. Schalke, obviously, with kind of their big team fight powers, all of those ultimates that want to layer together, and G2 with a lot of their poking weapons and more of their assassination, mobility, flying over walls, creating chaos and pockets of darkness to really abuse you in team fights.
And I gotta say, level 6 is really the point that I'm most excited for, especially now that Caps has his. This is something we talked about as the 7:30 dive. You heard Vedi talk about it a lot last week, and you kind of set it up for us in the draft, that this is something we have to keep our eyes on, because there's ways to reset tower aggro, and there's a lot of champions who are absolutely set up in terms of their kits to just force these dives out. But now Wunder getting aggressive onto Odoamne. He's reduced that healing. Odoamne flashing out to safety, but he's gonna use that movement speed. First blood and a dabbing penguin. Give it to him, Wunder. Welcome back to the LEC.
Yeah, Wunder had a bit of egg on his face in the first week. A lot of those matchups didn't look that clean, but now finding a nice 1v1 kill as Odoamne has continued to get punished even harder in this matchup. We've already got the, I don't want to say Avarice Blade. It's not Avarice Blade.
It's not Avarice Blade. You're getting trapped.
Executioner's Call.
There you go.
I've now triggered Vedius and Ender backstage.
It's fine. They're 2 gold swords. There's been a lot of them over the years of League of Legends, but this is good from Wunder, and this is something that we talked about, is what does G2 look like once they've been actively scrimming again? What is their twist on 10-12? Now, we don't see scrims, so maybe there are other teams playing Akali top, but this kind of flex pick, using something conventionally used mid, throwing it at the top lane to get advantage of the draft, that's classic 2019 G2.
Let's also just point out the fact that Wunder this time around had hands, so I'm glad that the brain is now connected.
Also classic 2019 G2.
Classic.
And it just sucks for Odoamne, right? This matchup is so difficult. The good news is both side laners he's going up against, he can build MR, and we'll get double value. But yeah, that's a bit concerning there.
I mean, half health the Yuumi, but cute that he just grabbed back on to his opponent and didn't get his delayed back. Here comes a dive.
Abbedagge going to be in trouble here. Ought to use the W, the flash, and it should be an easy follow-up, but Lurox is right where he needs to be. That's the tower aggro reset. Caps flashing out over the wall. Jankos now going to be in trouble. He's trying to get this one down, but well played by Lurox to secure that kill.
Yeah, the fact that Jankos had to use his flash at the start of the engagement meant that he couldn't escape when Lurox did shut down the ultimate. Good read from Lurox, right time to at least try to trade 1-for-1. That said, still going to go in favor of G2 because that was a wave on the tower as well as the kill itself.
So what I think happens here is that Jankos is hoping that Caps will take tower aggro. When he resets tower aggro with his ultimate, notice that he blocks the CC there, but yeah, Jankos taking it again. Caps flashing over the wall to get the reset, and Jankos is sadly, is it an extra auto? Was it the red buff? It's unclear to me. Oh, it's the AoE on the Q that reprocs the tower aggro and dooms him to death.
And remember that we were kind of talking about this vision game, this idea of when you show on waves, what information you have. Mikyx was also involved in that dive. Not necessarily the most pivotal piece, but did rotate appropriately for it. And again, that vision was given for Mikyx to have that decision because of the Ezreal ultimate that came down the wave. They knew for sure that Neon and Dreams had taken their back. Look at the control over the river that G2 have with all of those pink wards. Just a nice little landing strip for Mikyx to continually shoot up there with the movement speed of Karma and get involved in those mid-game plays.
And just a constant threat, both for the jungle there for Lurox as well as the mid lane for Abbedagge. Mikyx now getting much more aggressive. The snare has now connected, but the ulti's moved in as well. That's the combo we were looking for. Neon and Dreams pulling it off, and Mikyx definitely needed to flash out a bit sooner, but held back.
And remember, Drakos, this is why you pick the Misfortune and the Yuumi. We talked about it. The ultimates, they just layer on top of each other. You can lock someone down like the entire bullet time.
It's literally an IKEA set of instructions. You know, the shapes just fit together good. Push R, just all it is, 2 R icons and a triangle and the rectangle fitting together.
It's gonna be one of those bad days, though, that if this pick doesn't work out, that you're like, I'm missing a wrench somewhere.
Well, and I'm impressed. I was really skeptical about how good this lane was going to be at securing lane control against Karma and Ezreal. Two champions who are very solid early on, but you can see the flat AD from Neon makes these trades quite easy. And while Mikyx, I think, had a good idea on a play, we'll hold that thought because Caps is getting frisky here in the mid lane. We'll just snap back as Lurox comes in. Denies a follow-up there as Mikyx does continue to make his presence known mid lane, but I like how much time Lurox has been spending around this mid lane just to make sure that Abbedagge sits comfortably there.
But we are starting to turn our attention towards this Rift Herald, as the team that usually starts the Herald first doesn't have the advantage, and they're also doing it without priority in the mid lane. But G2 are like, you can have it, we want the helicopter.
Oh, Abbedagge. Poor Manatee. We'll get bullied away. Just going to be a few plates. And it looks like Schalke actually will be able to secure this one. And all too crucial at this stage of the game, while Perkz is going to grab his second plate here. Important to note, as good as Lurox has been about defending from some of these plays, he cannot stop his top laner from bleeding out. That is a 30 CS discrepancy for Odoamne.
G2 are also setting up a trap for Odo. You can see that Karma and Rek'Sai are just hanging around in this brush.
Oh, Odo's going to...
He knows.
He knows. Good ward over the wall. All right, they're going to move him for this one. Remember, they don't have a Herald of their own, and this is going to be very hard to kill if Jankos wants to commit for too long. For right now, he's just faring in. You see Mikyx trying to get out of gold range here just to donate as much as possible into the back pocket of Perkz.
That said, the team with the Herald will obviously move faster as soon as that bad boy goes down. Come on, Lurox.
Yeah, we'll grab the Cloud Drake in exchange. So second Drake for G2, we will have Infernal or Mountain Rift. Infernal, incredibly powerful. Mountain, pretty bad for the team comp that G2 have put together. So we'll see if luck is on their side, if they can roll some nice Infernal Rift. And
this is a really good wave stack that's happening right now to slow it down. So Lurox has finally pulled the trigger on the Herald to get the two-plate insta-kill. G2 did a good job stacking the wave, maximizing the plates, and are now resetting to make sure that Wunder's not under any unnecessary pressure as Herald's looking to charge tier 2.
Well done.
Get behind it, Wunder. Oh, it turned!
One man, one desire, just to finish off the Herald. But Wunder doing very well so far, especially a few more points, or maxed out in the Q now. That 5-point strike going to feel a lot more powerful, especially with the most recent, but small set of buffs to Akali. Froskurinn, I like that Schalke are matching blow for blow here, and really, I think, punishing maybe a bit of an overcommit from G2 on the bot side in that bottom tower.
I mean, Schalke have done a good job, you know, trading sections of the map. That said, they still have been a bit starved for some CS waves, particularly between the bot and top lanes. We'll check the scoreboard as soon as we get these beautiful gentlemen's faces off our screen.
And of course, if you want to watch these beautiful gentlemen and find out if Mad can stop Fnatic's win streak, that is Game 5. We'll be here for that one.
It's much worse than I thought it was.
What?
The top lane difference.
Ooh, yeah, I remember when I said 30 CS? That was a minute or two ago. It's getting bigger, and of course...
He also has a completed Gunblade to Odoamne's poor little Hex Drinker.
Odoamne's holding on. You know, he's doing the best he can.
Holding on to what?
I mean, holding on to his tower.
Look at that. He's abandoned the tower. He knows he can't stand
jungle
there.
is what he's holding on to. He's running out of things to hold on to. Hope that the rest of his team can carry him. A rough game for Odoamne. And you can't, like, look, the nice thing about that bot lane play for G2, right, is while it ended up evening out the gold for Schalke, it did mean that Odoamne just got further behind because he just had to watch waves disappear into his bot lane tier 1.
And the problem is now that Odo's on the top side of the map and there's no tower up there, you know, it's so dangerous for him to even be on his tower.
He's going to get 1v1 by a Rek'Sai. Nope,
no,
he's
okay.
going to flash out.
Yeah, proves you wrong.
Okay, if he didn't flash, you want to see what happens?
Oh, hold on, counterplay. They see that Jankos is top lane, Lurox. Caps is just backing.
And again, this is a hard man to lock down on the Ekko, but has absolutely no mana.
Wunder is killing the entire minion wave. Thank you, observers, for that picture-in-picture. In the bottom corner of your screen, they are continuing to starve Odo.
And, you know, playing with fire a little bit here, as that is a very speedy Caps, but Caps seems focused on the waves, and Abbedagge and Lurox are on the way down. Caps cannot afford to overextend. He will back off on this one. Obviously, the Misfortune looks like tasty, tasty bait, but the Yuumi healing should be enough to keep him safe.
It's getting worse.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow. This is rough. You know,
he lost the entire wave. Okay, Caps.
Getting in onto Neon is just going to force back. That's exhaust taken for the ulti. Overall positive trade for Caps, especially as he gets more CDR under his belt.
But now he's much more susceptible to kill, so I actually like this move from Schalke to then swing Lurox around with a control ward. They're like, come on, Caps. But why did they hard push the wave just automatically into it? Maybe they were trying to, because then you say like Schalke, you didn't have to push the wave there. You could have maybe tried to hold it a little bit more, give Lurox the option. Maybe they thought the Caps would just go for it.
Caps has been known to go for those crazy plays. Lurox is not going to get her up to tier on the flag, and Drag actually can pull himself out to safety. And Wunder not quite having as easy of a time as he did in the last exchange versus Odoamne, now that he has some of that magic resistance under his belt. So will not go for any kind of aggressive dive, but that tower is getting lower and lower. And as you already mentioned, Froskurinn, so much CS denied now means we went from 30 to 40 to 50, and that CS discrepancy is not going anywhere.
What? Speaking of not going anywhere.
What do you want to call it? You want to call it a whoopsie? How do we save face here for our boy Abbedagge?
I'm going to say intentional.
Intentional.
Yes.
He's waiting. Because he just wants to catch the wave. He knows he doesn't want to use the package. Instead, he wants to use TP. He uses the package on his next back.
He's saving the package for an incoming bigger team fight because the dragon is spawning in 52 seconds and he wants the package for that.
And he TP'd bot just to catch the wave so he can back and get the package, use that extra movement speed to make it a dragon. Abbedagge didn't make a mistake. He's just big brain, folks. There it is. Nice. I thought we were going to have to look BS through that one, but I think that's actually the
No, I think we're just going to ship it.
There it is.
We'll ask him after.
Yeah. Sometimes you're amazed. Sometimes they're like, I forgot. And sometimes they're like, no, you're 100% right. That's exactly what I was planning. So
I say he actually just fakes it. Even if he did just forget, Abba just lied through your teeth.
Always take credit for being the big brain player. But Abbedagge, you can see, definitely not having a good time in this matchup. Caps, it looks like just trying to force the package out before any potential fight comes in. Block. Abbedagge cannot push his normal W while he has package. That's going to be important. Jankos will be able to follow if he lands the Prey Seeker. The package will not save, but he does use it to dodge the Prey Seeker. Good fingers there from Abbedagge.
And you can see that Corki is really struggling with this matchup. Even when he does have the W in some of those mid lane trades, Caps, obviously, it's the E, I think, on Ekko.
Yeah,
it's dash after.
Yeah, very easy to follow, and of course, if the slow hits you, very easy for Ekko to connect all three, and if Ekko can proc all parts of the three-part passive, the Z-Drive Resonance, he gets to zoom in and zoom out at will in those extended trades.
Okay, so this is actually an issue that I want to point out of just what happened on the map. So we saw that Caps already had complete priority over the bot lane, was winning out those trades on Abba. It then led into complete river priority bot side for G2 to take that Infernal. My issue is that Schalke were still a little bit slow on trading something else in the map. If G2 have that many resources invested into controlling bot side river, maybe even holding it mid and contesting bot tower, you know, we're just now on the Herald that Lurox doesn't have any backup for and is actually being forced off.
Oh.
Okay.
Lurox potentially in trouble here. Wunder can look for the chase, but is going to back off. He's going to dash in, rather. Not what I predicted, but is now in the realm. Going to dash out to safety, trying to shut down Lurox. Mikyx is here as well. Wunder definitely playing a little bit fast and loose here, but the TP is going to take him out. Not going to be able to deny that one. A bit of an unfortunate blast cone. Maybe could have gotten Odoamne over the wall, but there goes the Eye of the Herald as well.
Drakos, Wunder just styled on like 16 people there.
But what did it do?
That was so good. The entire 10-man roster of Schalke are embarrassed.
No. All right, Frost, we got to reset because so much has happened in this game. Let's talk about stakes. We said we're resetting expectations. I feel like we saw some good things from Schalke, and we've seen a few more good things from G2. So at this point, what is G2's goal in this game?
I mean, right there, that looks like a lot of flexing.
I'm making a montage. Yeah, obviously. Okay, what is everyone but Wunder's goal? By the way, Super Fantasy, if you have Wunder, you're probably feeling pretty good right now.
I mean, his KDA is not that great.
It's true.
CS, oh no, it's about to get better? Okay, 1v1, here we go.
Is the true damage Akali enough? Does not look like it. Oh no. Oh, he's getting herded. This isn't what he wants. Odoamne's not livestock. You can't treat him like this. Oh, they're taking him right to the killing field. They're making burgers out of this boy. Oh, down he goes. Unstoppable as Jankos as he comes out. And Lurox now quick on the retreat here. Big ultimate coming down, taking a bigger chunk out of him. But G2 just absolute control of these side lanes, and Schalke cannot catch a break.
And that's the answer that you wanted. Drakos, before we saw the Corki maneuvers there from G2 of herding Odoamne exactly where they wanted him. It's the side lane power. And this is 2019 G2. We kind of called it at the beginning of draft. You're seeing it again. It's that ability to play those side lanes with the very powerful Akali and Ekko right now, and you have so much safety on a Karma Ezreal. How are you ever supposed to lock this duo down?
And the thing is they just keep taking these small advantages from Schalke. The kill, obviously, an immediate bigger one, but forcing Misfortune ult out while she's level 10, while the cooldown is still longer, before she has any CDR is a big deal, because she's not building attack speed. She's all ability damage right now with this IE and potentially Essence Reaver to follow. So it's going to be a difficult couple of minutes for Schalke while they wait for their major cooldowns to come back.
Kind of the difference of these comps, and I'll hold it because I think Neon... Run, boy!
Wunder going for him. Keep in mind, they're not going to be a frozen fist there, but Wunder's going to go in anyway, wants to finish this one off, but there's a surprise! Yuumi! And the cat is going to win out on this day, and Perkz going to have to start running for the hill, but still trying to fire back. Will sidestep on the Infernal Chains, quick arcane shift out to safety, and Wunder!
Are you feeling yourself now, Wunder?
Yeah, we were praising you. We were like, this is such a turnaround after he got bodied by Alfari, but while he still has the CS advantage, I think over-forcing is the term that I would use.
What I was just about to talk about, though, is kind of where these compositions are really powerful. And again, especially because of, unfortunately, how far behind Schalke have been set. Right now, they just want minion waves. They want minion waves. They need time to get some of these items to even catch G2 up, and so they just need safe places to be. But also, their composition really does want to fight around these monster objectives, which puts them on a timer of kind of when they want to act with their comp. Where in between the monster objectives, G2 just own these side lanes. So that's a much bigger window of time where G2 are contesting on gold, are winning out these trades, are forcing Schalke around.
And my big concern, Froskurinn, is when we look at this composition, the only person who's actually catchable on this G2 lineup is the Karma. Everyone else has a dash that ferries them to safety, and you look at the forms of engage that are reliable on Schalke's side, it is Cataclysm and an EQ for Jarvan, which means it's all eyes on Lurox to find a pick if Schalke want a way to come back in this game that is in a team fight, because now as we approach Baron, it's soul point for G2. And I'm worried that Schalke are put in a position where they have to make a decision, and it did not look good when the pressure was on last week.
And unfortunately, the itemization, also the fact that Schalke, with how fed the Akali got, had to go into Hex Drinker.
Well, Perkz, though, as I said, caught out, but there goes all the major CC. Movement speed will ferry him to safety, and as predicted, not able to lock down that kill, but now it gives permission for Caps to go all the way in. Third proc. Will dash back to safety, cannot finish that one off.
I'm going to say a little bit overzealous, maybe, on the flash there from Caps. I don't know if he expected how much damage he was going to do, or maybe he thought it was going to be more than that. Maybe that Hex Drinker really paying off.
It really is. And that is the good news for Schalke, is that as they get later into the game, both the Akali and the Ekko damage is very easily mitigated by further MR stacking, and then all the damage does have to come from Perkz. It's not impossible for an Ezreal to do it all, but it will be much more difficult in the fights to come. TP, though, now coming into the mid lane. G2 clearly eyes set on Infernal Soul. Massive for their composition.
And G2 actually just need to play this slow, because they'll have mid lane priority as that wave is going to be pushing in. So just disengage from Schalke here.
Ooh, Abbedagge playing with fire. He's going to use the double W, but there comes the Misfortune ultimate. is going to result in the death of Perkz. That's all physical damage gone, which means this Hextrigger going to be even more important for Odoamne in the fight to come. But for now, it's actually G2 just poking, just playing slow. As you said, Schalke, though, pushing in, bullying, trying to make sure they secure this Drake. Have to be careful, though. Do not want to risk a 50-50.
Mavs looking to flank over the side here. How crazy is he going to be?
If he can take down Lurox here, it's going to be massive. Oh! No! No, 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 no. That was bad League of Legends. That should not have worked. Caps, that was disrespectful.
That's G2. I don't know what you want. I don't know.
You just say unlucky and you go next. I'm sorry, Schalke. I know the game is pretty close. I know it's 3K difference, but that should be impossible. That is unbelievable. And now Odoamne is the one who might have to pay the price as the entire team's getting aggressive.
They can't dive him, though, because they don't have access to Caps' ultimate. Not as safe as we get another look at this one. So we wanted G2 to play slow with their composition, which then meant for Schalke that they had to do as much damage as possible with these big cooldowns that were available. And as much damage as possible was getting a shutdown onto Corki, was killing Perkz, and then the waves are crashing in, and Schalke are like, you know, this is sole point. We're losing gold on the waves that are being fed into our towers. We have to go for this Drake, but it's in that desperation of, are we on the Drake? Are we bursting this together? Are we trying to zone off G2? This indecision of the calls that allows a miracle play like that to happen. Like, credit on Caps for executing on it, but it's also Schalke being stuck in very hard decisions to make and then fumbling the execution.
Yeah, once again, absolutely brutal. Keep in mind, it's only level 10 there for Lurox, so a tough situation anyway. And I think now at this point, you're kind of just holding on for survival, because while I really like that fight from Schalke, I like the use of the Corki package paired with the Yuumi ultimate. That's a small window where that's going to work on locking down Ezreal, because once there is a QSS or a Mikhail's Crucible, that never works again.
It does also mean that G2 need to be respectful in these team fights, though, because you are seeing some of that team fight power that Schalke's composition can put out. They need to spread up so they don't all die to this big 5v5. But credit to G2's comp is that they have so many damage dealers.
Yeah. And there comes the ulti once again. Caps has been locked up, is going to be shut down here, but there's a TP coming along the backside. Wunder has now arrived. The rest of G2 hiding in the darkness, but Odoamne smells blood in the water. Now he's on the chase. A little bit of vengeance for lane phase, but it's not going to happen. G2 pull back. And this is one of the difficulties of this composition, I think, Froskurinn, is that when we look at G2's lineup, they don't kill Baron very quickly, so very difficult for them to force this objective without any kind of greater advantage.
But it's still really frustrating to play against G2 because this is like a comfort play style of theirs.
Mikyx, though, flashing out.
Come on.
Jankos waiting, is going to try to find the knockup. Mikyx now running away. Odoamne now in trouble, goes under, comes right back up. The cat is not enough. Jankos flashing out. G2 still finding picks, despite being at a man disadvantage.
It's just unfair when you give players of this talent that much agency on the champions that they have. Every single one of these champions can kind of do their own thing in these fights, and that's when you really get to see kind of the mechanical muscle of G2 overtake these team fights. I love watching G2 on these style of compositions because if you give this weapon to any other team, they don't execute as well. And that's not to say that G2 are playing perfect League of Legends. They're definitely not. But it's still really impressive to watch, and you can see that Schalke are getting frustrated with it. They want to just fight them, but fight them on their terms, but the fights get pulled out, all the big cooldowns come out of Schalke, they lose all their steam, and G2 then just start dancing around them.
And that's just the power of this composition, the agency that they have. They get to dictate the fights, and you can see here, when Abbedagge goes for the re-engage, that there are moments where Schalke can find and punish G2 for potentially over-committing here, but they are few and far between. Now, good on Schalke for capitalizing on them, but they need to find a lot more picks like this if they want to find a significant advantage in this game.
An issue is that they just lost their TP there, and they're already losing side lanes to the mobility of this composition. It's so scary against G2's comp to be on a side lane, and Baron's going to be in play. And I know that you talked about how this comp won't necessarily do Baron the fastest as maybe a traditional composition will, although I still think it'll do it pretty fast.
Yeah, he got a lot of damage dealers.
Now Schalke are unfortunately down a really crucial summoner spell to try to juggle some of this map pressure.
Absolutely. And shout out to New Infernal Rift and that extra blast cone for getting Wunder out of a dicey situation. That one has to be annoying. But Neon, you can see one of the difficulties of Misfortune at this point in the game is that her range compared to Ezreal's effective range with that Q, without the Yuumi to speed her up and get her in close, makes it very hard for her to do much in these one individual trades. But now, once again, that blast cone saves Wunder's life. Thank you, Riot Balance Team, for keeping this man alive 2 more times than he should have been.
Buffing Wunder here, as Abba's like, I had to take a right turn of the Hex Shrinker, but I'm back on track. I have the items that I need to start doing damage, and you must respect me.
Absolutely. And once he gets that rapid fire cannon too, if that's what he wants to go for here, it's going to be that much easier for him to throw down a ton of poke before melee range is even an option for players like Caps or Wunder.
Schalke doing a good job clawing their way back in this, holding the wave safely, finding the necessary picks. That shutdown again just a couple of team fights ago was really big on putting Abbedagge on the right track to be the primary damage dealer for this comp.
Abbedagge potentially going to be in trouble here, but they are just going to go out a little bit too eager. It looks like on that Valkyrie could have chased, but does not want to overcommit in this instance. And you can see G2 are just fishing for picks. And once again, Odoamne is what's on the menu here. One more auto is not going to be able to pocket the Z-Drive Resonance. Good use of that ulti movement speed. And now Caps might have to ult back, or is Odoamne the one overcommitting? No, Odo, he thought he had it. He thought he could turn it, but there was no reason to stick around there.
G2 are just so devastating. The level on Caps right now, level 17, running around. You can see his confidence. He knows exactly how much damage he's going to output, flashing forward aggressively at the very beginning of the fight.
And I respect the early Void Staffs coming in for both him and Wunder, recognizing the kind of vulnerability of the double magic damage solo lanes and working it out in terms of itemization to make sure that they are still a threat here in these small exchanges.
And it's the fact that G2 also don't need to rely on the Baron to continue to crack open this map, using their kill pressure instead, but
here we go.
Last chance.
Elder's a big deal. Wunder and Caps are both on the flank. Neon is a man that needs to be protected because he is just so immobile. But now here comes the Ekko. He's going to be doing so much damage. He snaps right back. Wunder in the midst of everything is going to try to dash to safety, but he just gets put into the meat grinder. Jankos still trying to finish off Neon. Neon's still alive. That's the power of Yuumi. The extra movement speed taking him away, but now Caps on the hunt. They want to finish him, and they take him down before the ult comes out. Dreams left all on his lonely, and it's just too easy for G2 Esports.
And Odoamne is standing in his base like, guys, hello? G2 just, like, they sprinted at Schalke. They dived into the back lane immediately. I think they end the game here.
Just having that vision on the flank in the jungle made it so easy for G2 to find their way into the backline. They give up the life of Wunder, but it is going to win them this inhibitor and potentially end the game now. Odoamne, the last man standing. Lane phase was rough. Maybe, just maybe, he can buy his team a few more minutes of time, but it looks like it's not going to happen. They're trying to close this one out. Perkz going to E in aggressively. You love to see it. And G2, after a rough week one, are back here to play in week 2 of the LEC. An absolutely dominant performance. And they'll take their sweet time, savoring what it feels like to win again here on the LEC stage.
Drakos, it's been a while. Let him have this one.
And of course, solid performance from G2, really just flexing individual muscles here. I could pretend that we should, get hyped one more time, but for Schalke, brutal game. So many small good moments, but they were just dominated on that top side of the map by Wunder, and that mid game was all about G2 dictating the pace.
I like how the fact that you called out some of the small moments from Schalke, when they saw the windows, when they were able to pick out G2, try to punish some of these overextensions. Unfortunately, G2 do they pick a little bit, and then it suddenly starts snowballing to a lot of bit, and then suddenly Caps is level 17, flashing you under your inhib tower and killing you. Feels like it happened so fast.
It was very brutal. And it was a game that I think deceptively felt like closer to Schalke right up until G2 just absolutely stole that dragon and pretty much instantly won the game. But Kia player of the game, you can head on over to Twitter at LEC, Wunder, Jankos, or Caps are your options for your Kia player of the game.
I feel like that last team fight with the Ekko opening it up by just diving into the backline and then immediately ulting out was like the microcosm for G2. It's like life comes at you fast.
It's so true. I don't know, but for me, Jankos is Rek'Sai. It's just nice to see the 2-time MVP back. And after the break, we're going to hear exactly what he has to say about G2's win, so don't go anywhere.
You got my heart and I'm head over heels in love in California, dreaming, yeah. Touching the stars and then dragging them down to earth like California, feeling. Oh, now what you do? You're proud to tell the truth. Yeah, down on the beach, I'm staying out late for you. Oh, I lock you loose, see the sunset from the roof. Next up.
Hello, everybody. Let the game begin.
And welcome back to LEC, everyone. And Jankos, welcome to the winning side of the Rift once again.
Hello, welcome. I mean, hey.
How do you feel about after this one?
Well, I don't know. I'm happy that we won, but at the same time, we were probably playing against the worst team in LEC, and it took us 30 minutes to beat them. But then again, who really cares about how long do you play as long as you win, right? And we played a comp that couldn't really hard force, so we just had to play on objectives, and we kind of did pull out the win, so I hope we can do the same tomorrow.
A good is a win. A win is a win. I'm sorry. And you were talking about the draft. I have one question about this. Did you adapt your draft based on when you saw they were drafting Aatrox? Like, did you plan on sending the Akali top side from the beginning?
I cannot tell you that.
Okay.
I mean, what I can tell you is that we are comfortable playing different matchups on different lanes. So since we are red side this time, last week played 3 times blue side. This game we had red side, so we had more of opportunity to counter pick, and we kind of flex a pick to make sure that we somehow get advantage in draft.
And I mean, flex picks are everything about G2. So something maybe you can talk about. And I feel like a lot of people asked you this already, but about last week, how do you explain the performance you had on a personal level and on a team level?
Well, I know a lot of people said I play like trash, which I agree. What do you mean?
I didn't say it.
But anyway,
I didn't say it.
yeah, I mean, it was a rough week, right? I think that we didn't really prepare very well since, you know, we couldn't really scrim as much as we normally do before a split starts. And I think we didn't read the meta very well on top of just individual players, you know, not performing, like me, for example. So the games were pretty rough. We also had questionable draft against Vitality. I think our draft against Schalke was fine, but there was certain listening that was making the game hard for us. And then, you know, we got caught mid after, basically after they got nashed, the game was over. Before that, the game was fine, but Zerze had like insane flank where our wards couldn't see him. So it happens. I think we will pick it up. I mean, we did have a rough time against Mad Lions in playoffs, and then somehow we did win the split. So I think it's regular season, and as much as it's every pro player says this, and it's kind of cheesy, but it doesn't matter as long as you get to playoffs. And of course, we are aiming to be the best through regular season, and we are aiming to win every game and not just get to playoffs. Like we don't want to drop a game, right? But we already did. And we want to be the #1 seed in the standings. And it did not happen. We did drop 2 games in 1 week, which, you know, at least we won 1 because it was super weak, right? Normally, if you drop 2 games, that's it. You just drop 2 games, but at least we won 1 game. But I mean, we are looking forward to our future games. Tomorrow we are facing Rogue, and I'm pretty confident in the matchup.
I agree, and you bounced back today, and I want to know, I feel like in people's head, they have so many expectations when it comes to G2 playing, and you guys winning all the time and constantly. So the result you had last week and the reactions around people about your results, did it impact your mindset coming in today, negatively or positively, actually?
It's very hard to say. I mean, of course, we don't want to disappoint our fans, and we want to play to win and win as much as we can. But at the same time, we are only humans, right? And we cannot always be at our peak. If we would be at our peak, at some point we would burn out, and we don't really want to do that, you know, before playoffs or before Worlds. So going slow in early season could benefit us in like the later stages of the season. And of course, our fans are not very happy with our performances last week, at least. And, you know, I'm not even sure if they're happy about this game. But if they are fans, they know how we work as a team. And I think that we can pick it up, and I think we can play much, much better coming into like basically week after week we'll improve. So, you know, I could apologize, but as I mentioned, we are humans. We cannot always smurf, and we cannot always be on our peak, and we cannot always play Lee Sin like Dian. Sometimes we play Lee Sin like Bronze. So yeah, you know what I mean.
Why would you apologize when the community voted for you as the player of the game here, Jankos?
Yeah, that's nice, actually. I mean, I kind of gave up on getting MVP 3 times in a row because of my last week. Like, I think it was so bad that I kind of mentally gave up already, so I didn't even think about getting MVP. So that's very nice. I think Caps had his moment in game where he stole the Drake, so I thought he would get the MVP, but at the same time, instead we could like look at the enemy giant. I mean, I think it was like not so easy to smite it, so I don't flame Lurox because, you know, Ekko combo with the 3 proc is hard to smite, but he had like a half a second there since, you know, I didn't really have flash. But I mean, yeah, I'm very grateful, and I'm very happy that I was performing better on Rek'Sai than I was playing on Lee Sin, and we will see what I draft tomorrow, if it's a Lee Sin or if it's something else.
We'll see about
But if it is a Lee Sin, I definitely will have a better performance than I had last week, so no worries.
Okay, we'll be watching your performance if you draft a Lee Sin. Indeed, Jankos, thank you so much for all these answers, and congrats again on winning this game. And we are going to take a short break, and coming back, we will see the 4th game of the day, Origin versus XL. Stay tuned, guys.